Deception is a favorite tool of generals and politicians alike. Propaganda can influence the thinking of entire populations to believe what is, in reality, a lie. People lie for many reasons. Those who lie frequently know honest-minded people are most susceptible to believe lies, simply because they themselves do not lie. Adolf Hitler observed, "In the big lie, there is always a certain force of credibility, because the broad masses more readily fall victims to the big lie than the small lie, since they themselves often tell small lies in little matters, but would be ashamed to resort to large-scale falsehoods. It would never come into their heads to fabricate colossal untruths, and they would not believe that others could have the impudence to distort the truth so infamously." The most effective lies are those entwined with error. The subconscious mind recognizes truth. This lends credibility to the error that has been entangled with truth. It is for this reason it has been said, "The devil can cite Scripture for his purpose." William Shakespeare. It is important for believers to be aware of this devilish device, for it is widely used by governments and organized religion to garner support and conformity to unbiblical practices. Scripture warns of a global entity at the end of time that shall exercise despotic power over all. Believers have long stood as a bulwark against the encroachments of evil. Therefore, the devil has sought a way to beguile them into remaining passive in the face of wrong. At the same time, he twists and justifies their inaction to them as obedience to Yah. Romans 13 is a passage that is being increasingly used to deceive Christians into supporting unjust laws and tyrannical governments. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right, and you will be commended. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants, agents of wrath, to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience. This is also why you pay taxes, for the authorities are God's servants who give their full time to governing. It is true, the monarch of the universe is the King of kings and Lord of lords. He removes kings and sets up kings. Yahuwah is the judge. He puts down one and exalts another. All earthly authorities are in power by permission of Yahuwah. However, this does not mean they are servants of the Most High. and should be obeyed as such. Most earthly powers work to advance Satan's kingdom, not Yahuwah's. Therefore, it is only when their laws or regulations are in harmony with the divine law, it is the believer's duty to submit to them. It is a misinterpretation to use Romans 13 to force compliance with unrighteous laws. The law of Yahuwah must always take precedence over human laws. Scripture is full of examples wherein men of Yah risked their lives defying human law in order to stay faithful to the divine law. When a vain king erected a golden image on the plain of Jura and commanded all to bow down and worship it, the three worthies risked their lives to remain faithful to Yahuwah. They boldly declared, "Let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the gold image which you have set up." Several decades later, Daniel faced a similar situation. When a law was passed regulating worship, Daniel calmly went about his business without altering his normal practices in any way. 3 times a day he knelt and prayed toward Jerusalem, as he always did. The cost for his actions was high. They brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. The government had overstepped its authority when it made a decree that no one could pray to any god save the king for a month. Daniel knew this. So although he was very highly placed in the government, he remained faithful to the divine law rather than comply with the human law. Daniel's act of defiance against human law met the approval of Yahuwah. When the king opened the lion's den and asked if Daniel were still alive, his reply clearly reveals the principle. Obedience to divine law always takes precedence over obedience to human law. O king, live forever. My Elohah sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you. My Elah. Daniel was establishing that his Elah, his God, was superior to the king's gods, and as the Elah of gods, obedience to his decrees took precedence over every human law. It is a principle of righteousness. The law of Yahuwah is never to be broken, that human laws may be obeyed. The story of Peter and John before the Sanhedrin is another splendid example. The law of Yahuwah takes precedence over earthly decrees. When the commands of men defy the law of Yahuwah, man must rather obey the Most High. After Peter had healed a lame man, the priests had him and John arrested. When they had commanded them to go aside out of the council, they conferred among themselves, saying, "What shall we do to these men? For indeed that a notable miracle has been done through them is evident to all who dwell in Jerusalem, and we cannot deny it. But so that it spreads no further among the people, let us severely threaten them, that from now on they speak to no man in this name." So they called them and commanded them not to speak at all nor teach in the name of Yahushua. The disciples' inspired answer reveals the principle all should follow when faced with human laws that oppose the divine law. But Peter and John answered and said to them, "Whether it is right in the sight of Eloah to listen to you more than to Yahuwah, you judge. For we cannot but speak the things which we have seen and heard." This story is interesting for another reason. It was the religious authorities of the nation demanding compliance to their rules and regulations. Scripture is clear. Regardless the earthly power, the believer's first responsibility is to Yahuwah. The only earthly laws to be obeyed are those that do not contradict the divine law. Throughout time, millions have given their lives for resisting ungodly authority and remaining loyal to Yahuwah. It is extremely important for believers of the final generation to have a correct understanding of Romans 13, because misuse of this passage is already being practiced to enforce compliance to tyrannical earthly powers. In the near future, these passages will be used to uphold the counterfeit Sabbath. Compromising ministers will urge their members to submit to earthly laws that break the law of Yahuwah. A misunderstanding of Romans 13 will lead Yahuwah's professed people to comply with man-made laws. In doing this, they will receive the dreaded mark of the beast. It is both incorrect and morally wrong to use Romans 13 to support governmental laws in opposition to the divine law. Yahuwah has not given authoritative power unto any man in heaven or earth to negate his law. Dietrich Bonhoeffer understood this extremely important principle of righteousness. Bonhoeffer, a committed Christian pastor, lived under the atheistic regime of Nazi Germany. At that time, many Christian churches conformed to Nazi demands, and they based this spiritual fall on Romans 13. A Lutheran theologian, Bonhoeffer understood the danger of placing human authority above divine authority. He took it one step further to explain all have the responsibility to resist unjust authority. To illustrate the need to speak up in defense of others, he wrote, "First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists and the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was neither. Then they came for the Jews, but I was not a Jew, so I did not speak out. And when they came for me, there was no one left to speak out for me." This courageous man of Yahuwah was arrested and imprisoned in 1943. He was martyred just 2 weeks before Allied forces liberated the labor camp in which he was incarcerated. Scripture does not teach blind obedience to earthly powers. In contrast, it teaches all who love truth and holiness have both a duty and an obligation to resist wrong, the very opposite of the incorrect interpretation of Romans 13. It is a solemn duty to stand for truth, a sacred obligation to resist evil in all its forms. Edmund Burke was a man who understood this well. He was an author, statesman, political theorist, and philosopher. A quote frequently attributed to him states, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." Governments, powers, and authorities hold their positions by permission of the Almighty. Their authority is delegated authority. As such, ultimately, they are answerable to the Creator. Just as they made bold to form requirements that defy the divine law, in that instant, they violate the authority given them by the divine lawgiver. Ecclesiastes 12:13 summarizes the Yah-given duty of man. "Let us hear the end of all. Fear Yahuwah and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." The soul's primary responsibility is to the Creator. Earthly governing authorities are to be obeyed only when they are in conformity to the divine law. This is the whole duty of man.